Hello everyone, welcome back to Seasoned Professional. My name is Hannah Octavia and I am so pleased you are here listening to another episode today. And today it's a very exciting episode. We have on the amazing Miss Christine Wiedemann. She was my old mentor, teacher when I was trying to become a teacher, and we honestly had such an amazing time together. I was looking at photos from that time, but it was funny because it was during COVID, and obviously that part isn't funny, but this next bit is funny because I would obviously wear a mask to school, but I had really bad acne at the time, and I think it was because of stress or from the mask or whatever it may be, just being younger. And so I would do just my forehead and eye makeup, and then the rest of my face would be like nothing because I wanted it to breathe. And so we would be having coffee or we'd be having lunch or we'd be doing whatever, the kids would be off, and I'd take off my mask and it would just be like a line of makeup. And there were some pictures of it. I'm just like, that was a little bit weird looking. But we honestly had such a great time together. I learned so much from my 6-week placement in her classroom, and she was just really great because she let me have a lot of free reign. I kind of went off and did my own thing, like essentially immediately. If I needed her advice, she was always there. And there were moments where, I said something and I was like, I could have phrased that a different way, or could have explained something a different way. And I would kind of look at her and be like, could I have done that better? And she would agree with me and she would give me advice. So it was honestly great. I had such a good time there, and we've stayed connected ever since. Yeah, and the last thing I'll say about the podcast before I give you a little update on this past week is Christine's actually the one person, like the very first person that I've had on that I've actually had a long-term friendship with and that I've known for many, many years. And it's funny because I feel like on the podcast, I've been able to create such beautiful relationships with all my guests. But most of the time, I'm meeting them for the first time when they're sat on my couch. And the only correspondence that we've had is through email, sometimes a Zoom, sometimes a phone call. But a good chunk of my guests, I literally meet them for the first time when they're sat across from me. So it was weird knowing someone and interviewing them and asking these detailed and purposeful questions, because I feel like when you hang out with a friend, there's not that much thought that goes into the conversation. And with the podcast, there is thought that goes into it. But again, I don't prepare anything. But for some reason with this episode and this guest, I was just overthinking everything, and I wanted to say the right thing. And it was a lot more overwhelming than any other guest I've had on, which is funny to say because it shouldn't have been that way, but it was. So yes, we talk about, how she transitioned careers, her childhood, growing up with 3 siblings, coming from a German household and a German background, and, her future plans when she transitioned to ESL. There's so much that we chat about, and I'm just really excited for you guys to listen. So enjoy. My next thing that I'm going to chat about before I send you on your way is this past week. So if you listen to last week's episode, you would have known that I was going on BBC Radio, and I did, and it was amazing. And I prepared beforehand, right? And I wrote out a bunch of questions and kind of had my general answers for all of it. I did a little sit down. We timed it all with Clay, my boyfriend. And then I get there and I'm just sat in the lobby waiting. And then I get called in and the studio's set up, and Sarah, the radio host, starts asking me questions, and she was so kind and so welcoming. And then it started. I think I blacked out and it was over, and I was back out on the street, just mouth agape, feeling so excited about what I had just done, checking my messages my Clay and my parents being like, oh my gosh, it was so good. And I'm like, did I sound okay? Did I sound nervous? And it was just another one of those milestone moments. You know, last week, I think it was, we hit 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. I just feel this amazing, beautiful bit of momentum happening, and I'm trying to be so positive. And, you know, the old me would have been really scared to admit that I felt this momentum, because I would be scared that I'd like jinx it or whatever. But this year I am trying to be more open with my goals and trying to speak them into existence rather than be fearful of them, and actually like actively go out and achieve them. So yes, very exciting. I don't think I have anything else to say in that regard, and I don't want to chat much longer because I think I've already talked too much, because that is something that I do. But I really enjoy these little like catch up things beforehand. I think it's very fun to pretend that I'm talking like to my audience, to my people. And yeah, I'm just so appreciative of those who are here, those who will be here in the future. And I really want to get 100,000 subscribers. Speaking of goals for the year, 100,000 subscribers for the YouTube channel this year. I'm putting it on the vision board. I'm putting it out there into the world. I'm speaking it into existence, and I need your help to achieve that. So please subscribe, share, do all the things, and I really hope you enjoy today's episode with my dear friend, the woman I looked up to, and still look up to, I suppose. I'm just not in the teaching field at the moment, which is why I say looked up to, but I still look up to you, Christine. It's okay. Please welcome the lovely Christine Wiedemann. All right.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Seasoned Professional. You might notice that our setup today is a little bit different. We are in my lovely old, no, not old.
I am old. It's okay.
I meant to say my past teacher.
Mentor.
Yes. So not old, just past teacher mentors house. We're feeling a little stressed at the moment because, first of all, I'm very warm. Is my face red?
No.
Because this is the first time I've ever done this setup by myself, and I'm actually forgetting if I look at the camera or not. I think I do.
Okay.
And this is also not my good side, guys. But this is a natural podcast. So, without further ado, I would like to welcome Christine Wiedemann to the podcast.
Thank you.
Guys, I'm so stressed. Anyways, we're just gonna... I don't know why I'm so nervous.
Let's just roll with it. Why are you nervous?
I don't know. Are you nervous?
No.
I know, you're never nervous. So I think before we get into like my first question, perhaps like how do we know each other?
Okay.
What's your story of it?
You came in as a student teacher into my classroom. I believe it was grade 7 that year.
Yeah.
And we were just coming out of COVID.
Yeah.
So it was one of those weird
was it coming out or going in?
Still in the mask and phase.
Yeah.
You know, kids had gloves on. Some stuff was virtual.
Oh, yeah.
I think we finished a whole school year in the classroom.
I think we did.
Mm-hmm.
But there were masks still.
We were totally masked.
Yeah.
Anyways, you showed up at my door, and you never know what you're going to get when you're welcoming a student teacher. And right away, I'm like, she's going to be great. I'm going to love this chick. And you were great.
And it was great.
And you were great.
Honestly.
Phenomenal.
I really lucked out with my student teachers. Like, the first one I had was amazing. You were hilarious. Like, I just felt like you would let me... First of all, I did everything immediately when I got in there. I feel like I kind of took over a little bit.
Yeah. Well,
and
that's what you're supposed to do.
That's what I'm supposed to do.
How are you going to learn what to do?
Exactly. But you'd also be like I remember I would kind of make mistakes occasionally, and I'll look at you and I'm like, was that not quite right? And you'd be like, yeah, no, that wasn't quite right. But then it was like fun, and we'd like move on, and it was all good. So I think, that was a fun year. It's unfortunate that we don't get paid for these things, but
Well, I did.
You did, okay. But not as much as you should have been.
No, that's true.
Yeah, like it's definitely not the compensation that should be required. But so yeah, that is how we know each other. That was probably quite a few years ago.
Long time ago, because I'm thinking those kids are now in grade 10. Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding. So that group of
gosh.
kids are now in grade 10.
That's insane.
Yeah. No, it was really fun. It was quite a cast of characters in there.
Yeah.
And as a student teacher, you got to see it all.
I did.
You know, you got to see a wide variety of kids and personalities and, you know, how a school really works. And like you said, I wanted you to have a lot of responsibility from the beginning. So worked out great.
I definitely did. We will get into this podcast, but I vividly remember, do you remember when the cheating thing happened? With, like the tests.
Okay.
Do you remember this?
No.
And I remember, because so basically someone was caught cheating.
Okay.
And I was like, and I got up on my horse and I was like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. I must make jest of this and all this kind of stuff. And all my teachers, I don't know if you were included. You just kind of like let me do my own thing and like make my mistakes.
Okay.
But all the teachers around were like, don't worry about it. Like people cheat, it's fine. And I was like, what? And I vividly remember that I had made the decision that I was going to take off marks for some things because they were cheating.
Okay.
And I don't know if we'll keep this in the podcast, but anyways.
That's okay.
And you were like, you know what? You do that. Like even though all the other teachers around us are saying that you should just let it go.
That's not a big deal.
And it's not a big deal. And like, you don't want to deal with parents. You were like, no, you show them the lesson. And I was like, yeah, I am going to show them the lesson. And it all worked out fine.
Yeah. And
but,
I'm sure they learned their lesson.
And I'm sure they did. And now they're in grade 10 and they're not cheating. So
Hopefully
I know. We can always hope. But anyway, that is how you and I know each other.
Yes.
And I'm so glad we've been able to stay in contact over the years. I am home now from Brighton for a little bit, obviously for Christmas. So this is why we could make this interview work.
It is.
So my first question for us is we've got your picture here.
Okay.
Tell me what's going on.
This is at the beloved Halliburton Cottage. So my dad built it himself. That's my dad, that's my mom. German immigrants.
Yeah.
My oldest sister, so I'm one of four. Only two of us are in the picture. We were sort of the littles, and there were the bigs.
Gotcha.
So they were... My oldest sister's like 14 years older than me.
Wow.
My brother was 11 years old when I was born.
Yeah.
And then I was born, and then my younger sister was born. Anyway, my dad decided that he was going to build a cottage in Halliburton to do something with us in the summer and not let my mom be driven crazy by this crazy house of kids. So we would spend pretty much the whole summer there and just on the lake and running around and having fun. And it was sort of like a very German-y cabin that my dad had built, and it's still there today. We don't own it anymore, sadly.
Yeah.
But it's still there today, and I still follow the people that own it on Instagram. And they've made some changes, but it's really beautiful to sort of see a new family in there. So we owned it, and then this new family has owned it. So it's got a great legacy.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
Which one are you for the listeners?
What? This is me.
No. How old are you there?
Not a clue in the world.
No.
Who knows? Who knows? I don't know. I'm thinking my sister is probably 4 or 5.
Yeah.
So I'm maybe 7 or 8.
Okay.
Yeah. 7 or 8. Yeah.
Was that large age gap on purpose with your parents? Like the fact that your siblings were 14 and 11 years older than you?
I believe so.
Wow.
I mean, Germans aren't always forthcoming.
Fair enough.
So, from what I understand,
yes.
So my mom was really young when she had my sister, and so they were in Germany at the time.
Yeah.
And so they had my sister, and then they had my brother. Then moved to Canada. And my mom was still quite young.
Yeah.
And I think she remembers telling me the story that she wanted to go out and get a job.
Yeah.
Because she was a little bored that the older ones were growing up.
Gotcha.
And my dad said, absolutely not. You're not getting a job.
Oh my gosh.
Like, just in his crazy traditional way.
Yeah.
Let's have more children. So that's apparently what they decided.
That's
I don't know
hilarious.
if that's true at all.
Yeah,
but that was the story I was told.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. to fill my mother's time.
To fill your mother, she wasn't busy enough. So let's
She wasn't
pop in
busy
two
enough.
more
Let's
children.
throw in 2 more children. Yeah.
That's too funny. And you say, so you were referred to as the littles, and the older two were referred to as the bigs?
Kind of.
Did you feel like there was some sort of separation between?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So my oldest sister, Ilsa, it's a very German name, I always felt like she was more of an aunt.
Oh,
because I don't even really have memories of living with her.
Oh, that's so true.
You know, by the time I was aware, she was at school, you know. And my brother, I remember being around more. He lived at home, and it was like he was like a novelty. He was like fun to hang out with, and this older guy, he could drive us to the convenience store. He could do all of these things that other kids' brothers couldn't. Oh, okay. But he was, 11 years older than me. Yeah. That's a huge gap. Yeah. So, I felt like my big sister was an aunt. My brother and I, certainly not a traditional brother and sister relationship, but definitely more of a brother, like big brother, little sister relationship.
Yeah. Did they ever take on the role of like being your parent almost?
My brother looked after me a lot. Yeah. Looked after us a lot. I don't know about the parent side of things. I remember he used to use me to steal chocolate bars out of stores and stuff. So we'd be in a store, and he would stick chocolate bars in my pocket.
Did you know?
No, I was a baby.
Oh.
But he was thinking no one would ever accuse a baby of stealing.
Course not. Yeah.
So he would do that.
Funny.
Then my mom caught him, and he was in big trouble. But so there were I guess advantages to having these 2 baby sisters following you around.
Yeah, you can steal stuff. That's too funny. And what does your dad do for a living?
My dad came to Canada as a skilled tradesman. He was a sheet mill worker, and then just hustled, worked, owned his own business, Norland Metal Products, and it's the immigrant dream. Yeah, right? Yeah. So he was a skilled tradesman, and very proud to be that, and ran his own company. My mom was a wonderful homemaker, and so it wasn't I wouldn't say it was like the Norman Rockwell painting of perfection. Yeah. But it was pretty good. It was pretty good.
It did the job.
It did the
job. And what, like, would you, because you say, do you think the fact that they were from Germany had like a big influence?
Huge.
In what way?
I still identify as very German. So they very much wanted to integrate into Canada. Yeah. I remember that it was very much, we're speaking English at home. We are Canadian. My dad was always cheering for some Canadian sports team. We were very Canadian. But we kept up the German traditions, like Christmas Eve, and we would have family come over from Germany. We don't have a lot of family here. The only other family we have is my mom's brother in Ottawa, who just turned 95 in September.
Oh my gosh.
And those are the only cousins I have in Canada. But they're so much older than me. They're my older sister and brother's age.
That's crazy.
It's so crazy.
Yeah.
So we were just all in Ottawa in September celebrating Uncle Ludwig's 95th birthday.
Uncle Ludwig.
And my mom is his only sibling left.
Wow.
So there was 5 in that family. And there's like the oldest and he wasn't the oldest. Second oldest and the youngest are still surviving. Wow. So it was just a beautiful moment to see. He waited and waited and waited for my mom to get there, and he was just talking about her. Aww. And as soon as she walked through the door, just the joy in his face was so beautiful. And to see them together again. Yeah. And you talk about being a parent, or a brother or sister being a parent. Yeah. He very much looked after her. Her whole life. So he was like sort of her protector and guardian and everything like that. He brought her to Canada because my dad was already here working. Okay. So my mom was back in Germany living with her parents, and he brought her here, and he told that story over and over and over again that day. Yeah. But it's obviously something that he's very proud of. Yeah. These little tiny things in life, and he remembers that moment of being with his sister on the plane with the baby and getting over to Canada and helping her start this new life. He's very proud of that.
Wow. And was your mom and dad together at this point?
Or? Yeah, they were married.
Okay, so then he was like, so your dad came over to Canada first, and then they came afterwards?
They came afterwards,
They came
yes.
afterwards.
So my dad came to see what it was like.
Yeah.
Could he build a life here?
Yeah.
And he could.
Yeah.
So then send for the wife, bring the wife.
Yeah, bring the wife and
bring
kid over.
everybody else over. Bring everybody else over. So.
Wow, that's great. It's lovely that at the age of 95 he can, it's terrible to say, can still remember, but like can still look fondly on that moment and like literally feel like it was the other day.
It was so beautiful.
Yeah.
It was so beautiful. And he sat and talked with my daughter,
Aww.
who's 16.
Yeah.
He talked to her for hours.
That's
Probably
so
not
cute.
a clue who she was.
Oh, yeah, no.
But she's 5'7", blonde, gorgeous. And my
Yeah.
Uncle Ludwig, bless his heart, always loved a pretty girl. And he just sat next to her and
Yeah.
just talked.
Chatted her ear off.
Chatted her ear off. And I was so proud of her. She just sat there, listened.
Oh, of course
and
she would. Yeah.
Talked and nodded. And it was lovely. It was so lovely.
Aw.
It was great. It was a really wonderful, wonderful moment. But my dad, going back to my dad, they had a choice. So this is post-Second World War Germany. Things were tough for Germany for a long time after that. And he described the story of the choice was Australia or Canada.
Okay.
And there was the local town hall or something they could go to have these presentations on Australia and Canada. So we went to the Australia one and, it was just talking.
Yeah.
The guy was just sort of explaining Australia. And he went to the Canadian one and they had a film.
Oh.
And in the film,
Yeah.
everyone drove a giant car,
Yeah.
lived in a beautiful house,
Yeah.
and there were mountains and lakes. He didn't know that in Ontario there's no mountains.
Yeah,
That
no.
was BC.
Yeah.
But he said that sold him right there.
Wow.
He's like, I'm going to Canada.
And that was that.
That was that. Decision made.
That's hilarious. I wonder how he felt when he got here and realized that it wasn't exactly like that.
He grew up with a single mother. Christine Wiedemann is her name. So I never changed my name when I got married.
Yeah.
Her name was Christine. And very strong woman.
Yeah.
But life was tough. It was him and his brother. And his dad, they thought he had died in World War II.
Okay.
He was a prisoner of war for 5 years.
That's
In
crazy.
Russia.
Oh my. Oh.
He finally comes back.
Yeah.
Makes his way back to Germany.
Yeah.
To the woman he loves. She's remarried.
Oh no.
To Wiedemann. So my dad's legal original last name is not even Wiedemann.
Is it not?
No.
Oh, interesting.
No, he was adopted by the Wiedemann guy. Technically. Adopted by the Wiedemann guy. So it was
crazy.
Yeah,
so do you know what your actual
Fry.
Fry?
F-R-Y-E.
Nah,
Yes.
Wiedemann suits you better.
Thank you.
Yeah, Wiedemann suits you. I'm sure Fry would have been lovely
That's what all the
too,
kids
but
say.
like, yeah.
That's what all the kids say. Wiedemann suits you better.
So what happened?
Well, in a very German way,
Yeah.
he knocks on the door, and my dad opens the door, and he said, "I need to see your mother."
Did he know who it was?
He assumed who it was.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
But he didn't tell him yet. So he
Okay.
said, "I need to see your mother."
Yeah.
So my dad runs and gets his mother, and Christine Wiedemann the first
Yes.
turns the corner, faints.
Oh my god. Yeah, you would.
And my dad is like panicking, and he said, "What did you do to my mother?" And he said, "It's almost Star Wars. I'm your father."
I'm your
I
father.
said, "Siegfried, I'm your father."
Siegfried. Ooh,
And
these names are
and my
excellent.
dad is like,
That's
"You're
crazy.
my father? Who's this guy?"
So did he think that the other guy was his dad?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. They
Okay.
didn't really talk about those sorts of
Yeah.
stepbrothers, stepsisters. That wasn't the way things rolled.
No, it was just kinda under the
especially
cup.
after the war.
Yeah.
So many people didn't come back, right? So you just sort of
Went on
kept
with
calm
life.
and carried on, as the Brits
Yeah.
would say.
Yeah.
You just sort of kept going. And
see.
she's, like I said, a very strong woman, kept going. Not long after that, so he said, "Okay, there's nothing here for me."
Yeah.
He went to the neighboring town
Yeah.
and fell in love and started another family.
Wow.
My father did track him down
Yeah.
and met his step brothers and sisters later on in life, but much, much later.
Oh,
Like I
okay.
think I was in my 20s when he finally connected with them.
Oh wow.
And then my the Wiedemann guy
Yeah.
dropped dead within a year of a heart attack.
Shut up.
Isn't it crazy?
That's insane.
It's the craziest story. She never remarried.
Wow.
She worked and worked and worked
Yeah.
to raise those two boys.
Yeah.
My dad, became a tradesman, moved to Canada. And my uncle Rudy, who
Yeah.
I adore as
Yeah.
well. We're
Yeah.
very similar, oddly enough.
Yeah.
He became a banker and ended up in Switzerland. Very successful.
Wow.
So both very successful
Yeah.
from very humble beginnings. But they knew how to work.
Yeah.
They had no options. You had to work. So really fascinating. So I think when you say, did my dad like it? I don't even think that was in their consciousness.
Yeah.
It was,
Yeah.
Am I happy? What?
Why are you asking
What do
me
you
that?
mean, am I happy?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm making a living. I'm working. I'm alive. I'm going to keep going here.
Yeah. That's an interesting way to look at things, because I think nowadays the constant
Everything's
question
about happiness.
is,
Are you happy? Are you happy?
and it's like,
No, not all the time.
no. No. It's actually
I kind of am. But
Yeah.
there's moments
me.
where you're not
Yeah.
happy.
Exactly.
But I think we focus on that more as a society because we have everything.
Yeah.
I think my dad, I'm going to talk about my dad this whole podcast, but he claims to have gambled almost all of his money away on the boat to Canada.
Yeah.
And had $17 when he got here. He was a beautiful storyteller. So we
Yeah.
never really knew how much was true. Well, there was always truth to it.
Yeah.
But, he
a little
loved
embellishment.
embellishment,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
He loved to tell a good story. So, yeah, he claims $17 or something like that was what he had left when he got here.
And how old was he when he came?
Very young.
Yeah.
20, 21.
Wow.
Could you imagine?
No.
With
No.
a kid,
No.
and a wife back in Germany.
Oh my God.
Yeah, my mom was 19
That's
when she had my
But that was
sister.
the norm, you know?
Yeah, well, that was just the way it was.
Yeah.
That was just the way it was.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there wasn't really an opportunity for higher education. But both my parents only went to grade 8.
Wow.
I know.
But even so, like, your dad was able to make a successful living for himself. So
The immigrant dream.
The immigrant dream. Exactly. And going back to your childhood.
Yes.
When you were in school,
Yeah.
what were you like?
I was very driven to be the perfect student. I remember teachers telling my parents, she is always happy. I remember teachers.
And your dad's like, happiness.
Happiness. Was ist das? Right? Like,
Yeah.
But she was always, they were very proud of that. That
Yeah.
I was kind of always like a happy kid. I was a good student. I enjoyed school very much. I just like to learn things. I'm still a curious person. I just really like to figure stuff out, find
Yeah.
things out, listen to podcasts, read books. Like I still want to learn stuff. That was sort of like the key thing about me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was athletic. I think in some ways I represented to my parents sort of everything they came here for. A kid that had the opportunity to go to school, go to university, be good at a variety of sports, and build this was the next level life they wanted for their children. So yeah.
Were your siblings similar in their...
No, they really struggled coming to Canada
Yeah.
and integrating into the Canadian society. So it was really hard for them, I remember. And they're successful too. My brother went on to take over my dad's business. And my sister works in accounting.
Yeah.
So both successful as well, but
Yeah.
things weren't as easy for them. They originally lived in Richmond Hill and sort of surrounded by immigrant population, Italian, Portuguese, everyone who was sort of flooding in with trades.
Yeah.
German, surrounded by that. So it was a really interesting upbringing. But yeah, no, they don't describe school as being easy or even happy experiences for them.
I see.
Very different.
It's interesting, like, because you being that happy person, and then you came back to the school in
I
the
know.
end and to become a teacher. So,
I never really thought that would happen.
so what did you think would happen? Like, did you have any aspirations?
I wanted to be a journalist,
Okay.
which was my dream for a long time.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to be Prime Minister of Canada, but that was like one of those little
I
kid
love it.
dreams.
Yeah.
Or Olympic gold medalist in figure skating.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
wasn't quite that good.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I wanted to be a journalist for a long time. And then I think just in high school, I found out you had to take French the whole way through.
Oh,
and be
ew.
proficient. And I'm like, yeah, forget that.
Yeah, the
And-
prime minister job's out the window. The journalist job's out the
Yeah,
window.
both. You're
Yeah.
right. Both jobs
Yeah.
out the window at the same time.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think maybe I should have gone the journalist route because I do love to write.
Yeah.
I clearly love to talk, but
And
that works in teaching as well. That works really well in teaching.
It does. When did you learn about journalism as a career?
My dad would come home every night and he would put on the TV. We only had one television in the house.
Yeah.
And he would watch the news.
Yeah.
Both my parents coming from like Germany, post-war Germany, they were very interested in politics and how this country was going to run. They were very liberal. They were always afraid of the far right, of course, coming out of that situation.
Yeah.
So we always had the news on, and it was always, my dad would always be talking about politics, and my mom would always be talking about politics. So I was really interested in what was going on, and I'd just sit there and watch it.
Yeah.
I'd be doing homework or playing with toys, but I was in the room, and that TV was on, and I'd be listening. So I thought, oh, that'd be a cool career.
Yeah.
Be on TV and talk and read the news, and I just thought it was a very important thing to do.
Well, now that you say that, I'm remembering, because in COVID, didn't you come down to didn't you like pretend you were on a broadcast?
Yes, I did.
Yes, you did.
I have my on-air sign over there. So the only for my mental health to get through teaching online, and any parent or teacher will know that was a terribly difficult experience. I just made it into a show to survive.
I'm on in 5, honey. You can't bother me.
It really was. I'm like, everyone has to be quiet. I'm on in 5, 4, 3, 2. Like, good
Hello,
morning.
welcome back. Oh my god. Honestly though, that's the only way you could have survived.
For me, because you just lost motivation eventually.
Yes.
You just lost all motivation to keep going. And one day it was, it just felt like you were constantly working because you're on this screen talking, and then you're planning what's going to be delivered the next day. And there was so little interaction. And I feel like you and I as teachers, we both really feed off those relationships with the kids.
Yeah.
But when it's behind a screen, it totally changes the dynamic of the situation.
Yeah. You have to almost take on a new persona of being almost a little insane.
I don't want to sound too crazy.
And you and I are already big personalities.
We're big personalities.
So put us behind a screen.
Yeah.
I would literally just be like, good morning, everyone. It was next level.
It was next level.
It was.
That's how I got through it. And a parent actually knocked on the door and dropped off a little sign that you click on that says on air.
That's
because
so
she
cute.
You was so funny.
Yeah. Because that's what you were.
And it was, eventually we're cooking. I'm like, we're all at home in our kitchens. You guys should learn how to cook something.
Honestly.
So we made some grilled cheese and pasta, and we did sushi. We did bubble tea.
Wow.
we kind of went all out.
That's amazing, and we'll explore that more as we continue on. But we'll go chronologically. You're in high school now. Where are we going now? What were you like in high school? I feel like you were a lot. Were you a lot?
No, I think 9 and 10 I came in pretty shy.
Okay.
Just kind of feel things out. You go through a lot of changes.
Yes.
So, and I went from a very small elementary school. There was one grade 8 class. There were 30 of us.
Wow.
20 boys, 10 girls. And so going into grade 9, I think I was much more hesitant. It was a giant school. It brought in from all areas. I think we might have been at 1,000 kids.
Wow.
So that was a big change. So I think I just kind of laid a little bit on the low side, grade 9 and 10, and then grade 11 was sort of like, okay, I can do this. And then grade 11, 12, 13. Just slowly sort of building and figuring out what I thought I might do with my life and making friends and having a great time
just going through the motions.
Nothing majorly traumatic
No.
or
I'm
anything.
digging into your life.
There's nothing exciting,
Yeah.
Went to some good parties.
Yeah.
Had a great time. But the high school years were pretty
Standard?
pretty standard,
Yeah.
pretty easy.
Nice.
Yeah.
And where did you, what was the next steps? Did your parents have pressure on you to this is what you should do, or?
I don't want to say pressure, but I definitely had to go to university.
Expectation.
There was no other option.
Yeah.
And my parents were big on you should go to University of Toronto. At the time, it was ranked the best school. So that meant a lot to them.
I see.
Whereas other parents, it might not have meant as much which school you went to. I didn't even know it was ranked
Yeah.
The best school, I had no idea where I was going.
Oh, did you not?
Well, not really.
No.
I went and toured it for one day.
Yeah.
And said, okay, I'll go there.
Yeah, this works.
This works.
Yeah.
And then I was dropped off in Toronto.
Wow.
At my dorm room with my suitcase. And like my parents helped me move in.
Yeah.
And I remember the first night. So I grew up like sort of Hockley Valley area, like country-ish. And sort of like Schitt's Creek, if you ever watch that shows, are about in the middle of nowhere.
Excellent.
And the first night I'm in Toronto, I couldn't sleep. It was so loud.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, all the cars and the sirens and I could not sleep. I was in a total panic and probably like some sort of anxiety that I didn't even know I had.
Yeah.
Everything was coming out in that moment of being in a different place, not being with my family, not being with my siblings, and sleeping in this weird like rectangular bed in a dorm. First year was really hard, but then second, third, fourth year, really great. And I was so glad that I went there and lived that experience, and I'm so proud that I survived. Like, that was a huge challenge.
Yeah.
Huge challenge in my life.
And what did you take? What was your program?
So I was in geography.
Okay.
So it was environmental studies at the time.
And so when you went to U of T and you were doing the geography course, did you have like an idea of what the end goal would be?
No clue.
So were you just kind of like, well, I'll do this degree and
I'll just
hope
get
for
this
the best
degree and see where things go.
And where did things go?
Where did things go? So I graduated from University of Toronto, and then they had these certificates you could get at the time.
Okay, yeah.
So I got a public relations certificate.
Okay.
Which was great because we had co-ops and I could actually like go into some places and get some experience in PR. And I ended up with a great internship it was called Deloitte & Touche at the time. Now it's Deloitte, the consulting. And I worked in the PR department.
Oh, nice.
And that was a great experience. Fantastic experience. Really liked it. The people were tremendous. But throughout the internship, I was sort of thinking, so I'm just going to promote this company so that this company can make more money. It didn't
sit right.
Yeah. It wasn't, it was great and I enjoyed it, but I didn't feel like I was like really satisfying some part of myself. So then there was a job at a private school in Toronto called Branksome Hall, but in their PR department.
Oh, okay.
So attracting new students as well as fundraising. And we were trying to build an endowment fund to raise scholarships so that a wider variety of kids could go there than just Rosedale, very wealthy, wonderful school, fantastic school.
Yeah.
And it was while I was sitting in my little office there, looking out the window at drop-off every day, that I thought, that looks so fun. Yeah. These teachers collecting the kids and laughing with them and joking with them. And so then I thought, no, I'll probably go back to school and become a teacher. So I worked for a couple years. Yeah. Still in public relations and PR, fundraising mostly. And then probably 3 years I worked in fundraising, and then I decided I was going to go back to school and become a teacher.
And how did the people around you react to that?
My parents were always super supportive.
Yeah.
They were just happy I was in Toronto. I had a job. They knew I was getting paid. They didn't have to pay for my life anymore. I was living in an apartment with friends. It was really great. And then I remember telling my mom, I'm going to go back to school and go to teacher's college. Yeah. And of course, she imagined me like moving back into the dorms. So she was sort of like, you're going to move back into residence? I'm like, no, Mom, I can live on my own in an apartment.
I can still stay where I am.
and go to school. Yeah. I think I had a cat. She was worried about what was going to happen to my cat. This is my typical mother. She was like, what are you going to do with the cat? I'm like, no, Mom, I'm still going to live on my own, but I'm going to go back to school.
Okay. So she was worried about the cat.
Yeah,
that was the main concern.
That was the main concern, was the cat. No, they were super supportive. Go back to school, become a teacher.
And at that point, it was only a year, right?
It was only a year. And everyone in my cohort, we were the year that everyone got jobs.
Like
I never
immediately?
supplied a day in my life. I never supply taught a day in my life.
Oh, God.
They had changed the rules for teachers to retire early.
Yeah.
This was sort of a way to get salaries down, I believe, from the government. Get rid of everyone you're paying $100,000 to, and
get
bring
the cheaper
in
ones.
this new generation that you can start at a lower pay grade. So they had adjusted the retirement age.
Oh, okay.
And so there was a mass retirement across Ontario.
Wow.
I walked into a school. There was no apps or online applications. I walked into a school, handed them my resume, and the principal said, okay, come in for an interview. I got the job. Rest was history.
Wow.
Yeah. Doesn't happen like that anymore.
You say that, but I have this like weird thing where I'm like basically at the moment I'm not teaching as much as I should be, but I just have this like belief that like I can come back to it whenever I want to, because I kid you not, I have walked into a school and been given a job, and that's that.
That's amazing.
Like,
you're one in a million.
But no, I swear that's happened to many people, because now with, teachers going on like mental health leaves and
So
all
many
this sort of
leaves,
stuff, it's like they just want a warm body in the classroom.
Sometimes.
And that is that. Sometimes.
I mean, I don't want to degrade the job or the profession in that way, that you're just a warm body.
I was definitely more than that. But
you were definitely more than that.
Yeah.
I would never, I would hope that someone was never hired because they were just a warm body. I hope that someone cared enough to hire someone that was good for those kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of needing someone fast, who can get the job done, I mean, it's changed a lot. It's become much more of it was almost a stressful job, but there's a lot more to deal with now.
Yeah, you think it's become more stressful?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I know my poor, like, some of my friends are teachers, and just the things that they have to deal with, and it's difficult. Like, all jobs will have their stressors to them.
Absolutely.
But because you're dealing with someone's literal pride and joy, there's just so much more pressure.
You're dealing with humans, not robots.
No.
And they're not adults.
And the thing is, we're also not perfect. Yeah, like they're children, they're not perfect, but also we're not perfect.
No.
So it's like a constant learning process. But so you walked into school.
Yeah.
You got the job.
Grade 8. 35 kids in the class.
No, there wasn't.
Yes,
that's
there
horrendous.
Was.
30, and just you.
And just little me.
They were probably taller than you.
They all were taller than me.
Yes, they were all taller than you.
They all were taller than me.
And what was that first year like?
It was great.
Yeah.
They were one of the greatest groups of kids.
Yeah. And
so I was just language and social studies, and I had a great partner on the other side, Mr. Ferguson. Oh, nice. And he did the science and everything. He was very straight-laced, and I was too in my first year. Not very straight, as straight-laced as I can be.
Yeah.
So we were a great combination. It was just wonderful. It was a school in Southeast Oakville, which is a really unique community.
Yeah.
So it was great. I got to know the kids, and the families were super involved. And it was a great training coming from PR.
Yeah.
So I had that side of, okay, you need to look and act a certain way. That means something. I find a lot of young teachers come in now not realizing it, that you kind of have to sell yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
To
especially
parents,
nowadays.
To parents, to administrators, to the kids in your class. They're not just going to listen to you.
No.
There's a million other things they can give their attention to.
Yeah.
You really have to work to grab their attention. You have to get to know them.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because, like, for myself, and I think future generations probably won't be the same, but for myself, it was just like, yeah, you respect your teacher, you listen to your teacher. Yeah. But I feel like that's not the case anymore. So I have often gone into classrooms being like, obviously you're going to respect me. Like, come on, I'm your teacher.
Yeah.
But no, that's not always the case.
It's not inherently there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So a lot of young people will ask me, should I be a teacher? And I will always say, yes.
Yeah.
But you have to have a passion for it, because this job will eat you alive. If you're going into it for the holidays, dead in the water.
Yeah.
There is no summer break that will outdo a horrible school year, that will pull you out of a horrible school year. And also, I always say, you have to realize kids have changed, but they haven't changed. Everyone's like, I hear kids are so bad. They're not bad.
Yeah.
They've changed, but they haven't changed outside of how societal norms have changed.
Yeah.
So just the way that families have changed, kids have changed.
Yeah.
So, some of those kids are on devices all the time and being exposed to things that we weren't as children. And they have so many other things that they can do in the evening. Why would they do homework?
Yeah.
Why?
Why? Yeah.
Why bother? And even attention spans have changed so much. And I'm not going to blame social media exclusively. I'm not going to blame devices because it's a whole combination of things.
Yeah.
But it's a totally different society. Even what they're exposed to. Kids will come to school and they'll talk about American politics. It's harsh.
Yeah.
Those are harsh words that are being used across the border. Those are influencing kids. That is coming into classrooms. And even online, the horrible thing, even when they're playing video games, the stuff that they see people writing to each other is awful.
Yeah.
And those things are sometimes very innocently being repeated.
And they don't really understand the
They
context.
don't really understand the context
meaning.
or the meaning.
Yeah.
Especially racial bigotry or racialization of people. They don't understand.
No, they don't.
A lot of times they don't understand what they're saying.
Yeah. And I think that is something difficult to deal with because part of you wants to immediately just chastise
Absolutely.
and say absolutely not. But also at the same time, you kind of have to stop yourself and say, wait a second, do they actually know what this means?
It's really hard. You have to protect the kid that it was said to.
Yeah.
That child needs to be validated and
their
made
feelings
to feel comfortable
and,
and made to understand that no, you are not lesser than anyone else in this room.
Exactly.
But then you have to address the kid that said it.
Yeah.
And you need to have that whole conversation. You have to think of it as, you're there to teach, you're not there to punish. But at the same time, you have to dig into the situation, and that gets super complicated. And then you have parents who, want to jump in and on one side protect their child, rightly so. On both sides protect their child, rightly so. And it becomes a very uncomfortable conversation, and the parents on the side of the kids saying the word, well, we're not racist. Well, I never said you were. But we have to figure out where this is coming from.
Yeah.
But it's everywhere.
Yeah.
In the last, I think since COVID, we have dealt with the highest number of racial attacks within our school that I ever saw. And if that makes any sense.
Why do you think that is? Just because they're exposed to more when they were at home, perhaps?
I think the world's really angry. I don't feel like there's a lot of forgiveness, and there's not a lot of fun anymore. Is anyone having fun anymore?
I don't know.
Fun and forgiveness are gone. And
I know you can't really make mistakes anymore.
You can't.
No.
You're instantly vilified.
Yeah.
Instantly vilified in all aspects.
Yeah.
Even at Starbucks, everyone's mad. You're not getting your coffee, and it's like,
calm down.
Calm down.
Like, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, it's not that big of a deal. You don't need to be here.
No, you don't.
You don't need to. You've gone out of your way to come to the Starbucks.
Yeah.
Just put on a smile.
Yeah.
And say thank you.
Thank you for my $10 coffee. I'm going to enjoy this. Like, it'll be great. I know. On the way here, I went to Starbucks quickly. And I was like, I went up to the cash and I'm like, hi, how are you? And she's like, oh, good.
She's like, well, what do you mean? You care about me?
And I'm like, well, because I have worked in the service industry for years. Yes. And, the stories. And it just, you try, it's just going back to like the whole, just perception of people, I suppose.
Yeah.
I think most people are like saying things from a good place in their life, but like depending on how your experiences of life have been, they might take it badly. So I think specifically in schools and stuff, you can mean to be positive and to be good and to be nice, but sometimes it can be taken like in a completely different context.
Oh, absolutely.
How do you navigate that? How do you deal with that?
It's challenging. Like I said, coming into teaching, I had that PR background, so I was very aware. that whatever I said was going to go home to parents, and that story was likely going to be changed a little bit along the way.
Yeah.
And I learned my lesson very, very well, because it was a very tight-knit school community.
Yeah.
You were under a microscope. So you just learned, I learned,
Yeah.
you have to be very careful what you say. Now, anyone watching this will be thinking, Mrs. Wiedemann was never careful about what she said. She always had some crazy story to share.
But there could have been crazier stories.
There could have been crazier stories.
It's like, this is tame.
I think out of my curiosity, and just growing up with parents that were very political.
Yeah.
I think I understand a lot of the situations that are going on in the world right now that are causing some conflict within the classroom, and I can have an educated conversation with the kids about it at their level, depending on what grade it is. Yeah. So we can break things down and just sort of say it's not their fault and it's not their fault. They were put into an impossible situation. Yeah. And we have to realize that things have to move forward in some way, without the hatred, without the lack of forgiveness. Yeah. But it's really difficult. But no, I've said some really stupid stuff in my time, and then you have to go back and you have to apologize. And if I've said something stupid, you have to own it. Yeah. You have to own it with the kid, and you have to own it with parents, and they will appreciate that.
Yeah, I think that's something you taught me specifically, is the fact that if you do mess up, just say it.
Just say it.
Because the kids are going to know.
They know.
They
They're not
know.
stupid.
Like, my first day of that class where I just walked in and got hired, very stressful, I cried in front of them.
Oh, no.
I cried in front of... No, listen. It actually... No, because then I thought to myself, you know what? I am crying, and I do look a little silly right now. But I'm just going to take a breath, and I'm going to say to them, yep, I just cried. Do you have any questions about that?
That's amazing.
And we just had a little chat about it. And I was like, you know what? I think we can all understand this is a stressful situation that I was thrown into. And I'm just going to say up front, I'm feeling stressed, but we're going to figure this out together.
Kids love that.
Yeah.
They love
I think they do.
They see right through people.
They do.
They see...
They can see your bullshit.
They see it.
They
see if you're an authentic person.
And they'll call you out on it, too.
They'll call you out on it.
Yeah, and then you're like embarrassed.
Most.
It's like, I was hiding so well, and you just
exactly
told me.
When to stick it to you and how deep to go. Yeah. Because they know
and
your
you remember.
weaknesses.
And I remember.
Yes.
And it holds you more accountable.
Yeah.
Do you think it's made you a better mother?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like more patient?
Well, you just have... I have a lot of patience.
Yes, you do. Yes.
Which is funny because there's a side of me that doesn't have any patience whatsoever as well.
Depends what the situation.
Depends what the situation is. But yeah, for sure, 100%. Like just going in, knowing the school system, knowing what the skills your kid needs to have to be successful in school is such an asset. So, and I would never... parents deal with their own situations and their life can be totally blowing up. So maybe you couldn't always be reading with your kid every single night or teaching them sight words and stuff like that. Yeah. But I had the advantage that I could do that. I had the advantage of also having a very supportive husband and, making some rules for you're going to sit there and you're going to listen. Yeah. And you are not going to talk back at this moment. And that's just that. Setting them up for success in a way that someone who didn't have an educational background and was a parent might not realize. Because, sometimes parents will say things like, well, they're just expressing their creativity. Absolutely. You can express all your creativity, but in that moment, the way they said it was rude. And then, the parents aren't there, so they're getting a different context. And of course, there's, it's all bound up in their own experiences with school, and it's a very complicated situation. Yeah. But in terms of being a teacher, having been a teacher for a long time, it 100% made me a better parent in the sense that I could prepare her for school. Yeah.
And going back briefly, what year did you start teaching? Yeah.
2002.
Oh my God.
2001, 2002. 9/11 was 3 days into teaching. 9/11 occurred 3 days into my first year of teaching.
How did that day go?
It was wild. It was wild.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so
Yes.
9/11 was
9/11.
3 days into my teaching career.
That is
Wild.
really difficult.
Really difficult. So we were at a small school.
Yeah.
A lot of kids went home for lunch. So if you remember, it happened in the morning. We had one TV in the school, and our administrator was going around saying something's happened in New York. There's been some sort of attack. Don't talk about it. We don't know anything about it. Okay. And Southeast Oakville, many parents travel for work constantly.
Yeah.
So there was sort of this unease of, does anyone have parents on a flight right now? Does anyone, like, where are their parents? Are they stuck, in Pennsylvania? Are they stuck across the border? Can they get back home? So nobody knew anything for the morning. The teachers knew something, and we were nervous. And then the kids came back from lunch, and it was just crazy. Kids crying, parents calling the school saying their kid wasn't going to return, they're too upset, or kids coming back in and just telling everybody what was happening. So we only had so much information at the time as well. And they didn't know what terrorists were. They didn't know what a terrorist attack was. I mean, it was the biggest ever on American soil.
Yeah.
Is this going to happen in Canada? How do you answer that question? We didn't know.
Yeah.
And I remember I was grade 8, we got all the grade 8s together, and me and my teaching partner, we just, as openly as we could, answered the questions as thoughtfully as we could without trying to say something dumb.
Yeah.
And that's just how we got through that day. It was a blur. We didn't teach anything in the afternoon.
No, of course not.
There is no going to teach like a reading strategy.
Yeah. No.
Or anything like that. It was just sort of, let's just talk about this. How do you feel? Let's just take a little bit. There were no Chromebooks in every classroom. So it was just talking or playing a card game or just something to get us through the rest of the day. And then, the rest of that week was really hard because every day they'd come in and have more information and more information. And this attack is going to happen. Now we're going to be at war. Or the U.S. is going to be at war. It was wild, and flights were grounded. People did have parents stuck abroad, and everyone was safe. Thankfully, there was no one that had a story of something awful. But
but still,
it was wild. Yeah. Welcome to teaching.
Oh man, and like, I was 3 at that time.
Oh my gosh, you're so young.
So
I'm so old.
No. But like, I have no recollection of that.
It shocks me today that 9/11 goes so unrecognized in our schools. We don't talk about it. There's no lessons on it. Like Remembrance Day, we do a lot of work around that. Orange Shirt Day, bullying campaigns, we do so much work around that, which is amazing. But 9/11 sort of comes and goes.
It does, yeah.
And sometimes students don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
And it's a really uncomfortable moment because there's kids in the class that know what it is.
Yeah.
And then it's all on YouTube. And it's horrible to think that those kids are watching that without context. They're watching that plane crash into the World Trade Center, and they have all these questions like, why didn't some people get out? And not truly understanding the gravity of the situation, and no one's answering those because they're probably watching YouTube on their own at home. And then you have to have this whole class conversation, and the kids are yelling, "Put it up on the screen, watch it." And I'm like, no, we can't watch it.
We can't watch that.
And I can't tell you to go home and watch it either.
No.
Like,
that's a hard situation to be in.
You're drawing the towers.
Oh, no, you're not.
Please.
Are you really? Did you do that?
I probably have. I'd be lying if I said I didn't. I'd be lying if I said I did it.
Oh, but
I think we've looked at still pictures that I've sort of gone through and vetted. We've looked at pictures from that day and just tried to imagine what that
the gravity of the situation.
The gravity of the situation.
Yeah.
But as schools get more diverse, I mean, Oakville, where I teach now, we're so diverse. Kids come in with incredible stories. Kids from Syria and Palestine, Ukraine, they come in with just incredible stories of survival. And to hear those are amazing. And I encourage them to share those in a way that they are comfortable. And then it gets the kids talking. You know, they will say, you know, I didn't experience this, but my parents experienced this. And my grandparents experienced this. And it's just a wonderful moment for the class to see that, yeah, even though you may be Israeli, you may be Palestinian, you may be Syrian, Iraqi, Iranian, we've all had experiences.
Yeah.
We can share a common experience of, you know, being human and suffering or having known family members that have suffered. So it can be a really incredible experience within a classroom if you can manage it correctly. I wouldn't
Don't dive into that on your first day.
Don't dive into that on your first day?
Yeah. Maybe don't
Be
bring up.
Be a seasoned professional before you get into all of that stuff.
Yeah.
But that's what the kids really love. Those are the moments they remember.
Yeah. Because I think so often children nowadays are kind of met with, oh, like, we'll talk about it later. Or, oh, you know, you're too young for that. Or all these kind of excuses. And when you're allowing them to have like these really human conversations with their peers, it just makes the connection between classmates so much stronger.
Yep.
It makes the learning so much stronger. Like there's so many benefits to it. And specifically during COVID, like that's why probably so many kids suffered so much, is because
the lack of connection.
Here's a computer, have fun.
Awful. It was awful.
And we
still
talk about
see the effects.
Oh yeah. Like it's hard.
I would say socially, we still see the effects on children. And we do see learning gaps, but I'm less worried about those. Yeah. Because curriculum is just something that a bunch of people got together and wrote down on a page. It wasn't delivered from the heavens that you must learn long division in grade 5.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
They'll catch up on those skills.
Do you want to know? I just learned how to do long division.
That's okay.
Like I'm not.
That's okay.
Yeah. Anyway,
that's okay. You own that. That's okay.
But you know what? Now
don't ever tell a class you can't do long division.
Oh, never.
Don't ever fess up to that.
No, you know what I've been. You know my secret is I pretend that I don't know, and then I say, "You got to teach me." Works wonders. Then all the children will be hearing this and they'll be like, "You don't know anything."
Next step?
Does anyone know what comes next?
Is this right? Thumbs up, thumbs down. And you're scanning the thumbs. You're like,
yeah. You're like, no. You find the really smart kid, and I'm like, is this correct? Oh my
I don't know if you remember who we called the doctor. It was always like, is this right? Oh yes, thumbs up. Okay, yeah. But anyways, yeah, because COVID we had to teach everything because they couldn't rotate. Ugh. They couldn't rotate around. But yeah, the curriculum and the learning, kids will catch up. Like look at the learning from World War II. It's not like, of course there was delays in learning at those times, but now we're in the generation of AI and those people built an entire society. The learning, they caught up on the learning. Yeah. I feel like the social side of things,
it's harder.
It's going to be a lot harder. And there's so much, I know every generation says there's so much pressure on kids, but there really is. Like I said, I went into university, didn't have a clue what I was going to study. Came out of university, really not a path of what I was going to do. And I feel like my daughter, last year, we're picking courses for grade 11. We're working backwards from what she wants to be, where she wants to go, what courses she needs to take this year for that future. Yeah. And I just remember having so much more freedom.
And the scary thing is like, what if what she wants changes?
And it might. Yeah. And we're supportive of that. But
some people aren't.
Come from different situations. And some just can't be, for whatever reason. For whatever reason, they want a certain path for their child.
Yeah. I wonder, because when you were working at the PR agency, I'm just kind of flopping back and forth here, but you said that you just felt like it wasn't enough.
It was like a press release. Yeah. But why? Yeah. For this company to make more money.
Like, when did you feel, because I would assume you found your purpose and your drive within teaching.
I would say so.
When did you feel like, I'm fulfilled in this?
Second year. First year was great. Because I still see kids from...
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
It's absolutely incredible. When we bought this house, the lawyer that did the deal was a student of mine.
That's crazy.
Yes. And we walked in the law office and I saw the name and I thought, I didn't know that his dad was a lawyer. I just assumed it would be his father.
Yeah. And it was him.
It was him.
And did he remember you?
Mrs. Wiedemann came out and he's all gangly, still skinny in his little brown suit.
Yeah.
And, you know, to me, he's still this little boy sitting in this desk in front of me with his wild, crazy curls, curly hair. And he's the lawyer doing the deal in our house.
That's crazy.
And then we're just talking about all the other kids in that class and where they are. And I still see kids around town. Run into them all the time. Yeah. And most of the time I don't recognize them because you know they've changed, but in my mind I haven't. Yeah. Yeah. And it's just really cool. But second year, I went in. I felt like I had a year under my belt. I felt like I knew what I was doing. And it was a big push in the board relationship. And I just found my groove with those kids. We really, really connected on another level. Yeah. And you had more freedom back then too, in terms of like field trips and cool stuff you could do. And we could go on a walk. We could spend the day doing something crazy. Just in the community. It wasn't like everything had to be signed 5,000. Like now you have to sign a form for your kid to do gym class.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, you have to sign off or that kid can't participate in gym. Because if something happened, you're liable. But back then it was like, oh, why not? You know, whatever. Let's roll. Yeah. You guys want to go for a walk? Let's go. Yeah. Downtown Oakville. Let's walk around. Geography. Yeah. Let's go to the lake show. Let's go see Lake Ontario or the Great Lakes. Let's go. So it was much more spontaneous in that way. Yeah. So that was really nice. That was really nice.
Tell me about one of the biggest challenges you've had as a teacher.
Challenges as a teacher is the constant guilt. And there's a certain personality that goes into those types of jobs. They probably go into teaching, probably go into veterinary work. They probably go into nursing or becoming a doctor where you feel guilty that you're not reaching everybody. And you can't. Like you beat yourself up for feeling like, oh, this kid, they're such a great kid, but I never get to them because I've got to spend more time with this kid. And oh, I wish so-and-so would, you know, just be okay. And I think we saw that in the cast of characters that we had that year. There were some kids that just, I mean, it was so great to have you because I would be like, you take that person, help, please help. Yeah. One of us is going to take them and talk them off the wall, and the other one's going to stay and teach the class. Yeah. And I don't think parents realize how often that happens. That there's a kid that needs to be talked down, and when you're the only person in the room, you're making a split-second decision of, am I going to stand up here, ignore this kid, and teach this math lesson for the benefit of the entire class, or am I going to take 10 minutes to deal with what this kid is dealing with? And both are valid. Yeah. In that moment. Yeah. Both are valid. Yeah.
And I know the guilt that you're speaking of, I relate to so much because a bit of background, I only ever want to be a teacher, and very much like what your daughter is doing, there was like the only one path, and it's like, okay, I'm going to take these things in order to do this career. And then when I was in teachers college and like actually with your class, that's when I was kind of wavering on like whether or not this is what I want to do.
Great. I almost drove you out of teaching.
But it wasn't because of you. It was just because I didn't know like that rigidity that you talk about, and like how, like, obviously the curriculum's important and stuff, but like I feel like creating a successful human is more important, and that puts so much pressure on you. So much pressure. I would go into these classrooms and I would have so many ideas of like, I want to do all these things. Yes. But there's not enough time in the day.
Never enough time.
And you literally cannot do it.
You can't.
And the second you realize that, you're like, well, I'm shit. Welcome home, honey. But you just realize that like you just can't
possibly. It's almost you're just on the hamster wheel.
Yeah.
You're not on the hamster wheel because that makes it sound like you don't care.
Yeah.
You will never. I don't think there's a year where I ever truly felt like, yeah, I nailed that.
Really?
Yeah, because there's always someone that I should have done better. Either curriculum-wise, you know, I don't feel like they're reading at the level they should have been, or just mental health-wise or friendship-wise, they just felt a little lonely, and I wish I could have found a friend for them or something to change their time at school.
Yeah.
There's always something.
And how do you deal with that?
So I listen to a lot of podcasts on compassion fatigue.
Oh, okay.
And it's something that doctors feel, nurses feel, teachers feel, veterinarians feel, where and as well, people, because you're a teacher, they expect you to be a very compassionate person, right? And give all your time and do the big Christmas stocking or whatever exchange in class and
the gingerbread houses,
the gingerbread houses.
Everything.
Come on, I had to go all out. I always go all out, but it wears you down to always feel like you have to do that every single year. So just listening to what compassion fatigue is, realizing, yeah, I have it, and balancing that so that you don't become cynical. Because in any profession, you can become extremely cynical. And once you go into that dimension, that universe as a teacher, I think your mental health starts to suffer and the kids' experience starts to really suffer. But it's a fine line. And I can be very sarcastic and, make jokes about stuff or talk to a colleague privately and be negative, but that's not the experience I want to bring into the classroom. But that's hard. It beats you down because you're very much putting on a mask.
100%.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, because obviously teaching is such a relationship. Oh, you can come about as much as you want. Don't you worry.
This is the joy of my life. Come here. The best thing I've ever done in my life is this kid right here.
She's like, stop talking about me, Mom. Stop talking about me, Mom.
Everything is relationship.
Yeah.
When teachers are struggling with with a kid that is what you used to say, undisciplined, naughty, whatever word you want to say, there is a lot going on in that child.
Yeah.
And you need to start to uncover what those things are. Kids want to do well. A student wants to do well. And they do the best they can. But some kids have been dealt just horrible hands in life.
Yeah.
And there's kids who have been dealt horrible hands and somehow have the capacity to rise above it.
Yeah.
Those are 1 in a million.
Yeah.
And some have been dealt horrible hands.
Yeah.
And you can really be the person that will say, okay, let's look at what cards you have that are playable here.
Yeah.
Forget about those two.
Yeah.
What can we lay down in this moment
Yeah.
to get us a little bit further in this, to keep us in the game.
Yeah.
To keep us in this
Yeah.
game.
Oh.
So it's just never ending.
Yeah.
And there's days you have the perfect lesson planned and you think everything's going to be amazing. You're excited to go into school. They're going to learn so much. And out of left field comes in someone who's had the worst morning ever. And that kid just needs to take up that space in that moment. And everything is ruined.
Yes.
Everything in your world is ruined.
Yes. It's like, I planned perfectly for this.
Yeah.
Nothing was going to change it. And then you came in and you just have to go with it.
You walked through the door crying. Like a kid walked through the door bawling their eyes out.
Yeah.
What, I'm going to ignore that?
No.
You can't ignore that.
No. I know, it makes you, I think, I'm very grateful to have gone down the path of becoming a teacher because I now realize, now that I've grown up a little bit more, I don't think...
At 26.
I know. At my really mature age at the moment, I don't know how I would do in a corporate environment because I think...
You do great.
I'm sure I would.
I think
but
any teacher having taught, yes, because
we can deal with people.
We can deal with people. You can deal with high stress situations.
Yeah.
You can read a room. A good teacher can read a room in a second. And my husband says this. We'll get into a room and I can pick out exactly what personality the kids have. You know, watch that kid, keep your eye on that kid, you know, be nice to that kid.
Yeah.
That kid's going to need
You can't push that one.
Don't push that one.
Yeah, no,
that kid's going to need a little extra love and attention today.
Yeah.
He says that all the time. I can pick him out right away. Yeah. And he just doesn't have that experience. He just doesn't have that understanding. So I think, teachers are made for the corporate world because think of a parent-teacher interview. Talk about negotiations and a balancing act of trying to, you know, highlight your kids' strengths, but at the same time, talk about what their next steps need to be without making the child feel horrible. In Canada, here we allow the child in the interview. Yeah. And making the parent feel like a terrible parent.
Yep. It's just a lot.
It's a lot. And then you have administrators and you're trying to push curriculum and you're trying to always be innovative in your teaching and figure out new practices and keep kids engaged and keep up with the new lingo. All these words are throwing around now. This is the first year, the last 2 years I felt old. Really? I don't know what they're saying.
Oh my, And
I feel like I always did. Like I always could be up on what the trends were. Yeah. But when Skibbity came out, I'm like, what is Skibbity? That? Oh.
Stop. I lost it at Riz. Like, honestly.
I'm like, what's that?
Skibbity.
Is that a bad word?
We're actually swearing right now. It's like,
what
the worst thing. Did you figure it out?
Yeah, the kids told me. It was some weird meme. Everything's from meme culture now.
Jeez.
Everything is from meme culture.
I see.
Yeah. And TikTok culture, which I'm not on. Which is why I think there's a huge gap. Yeah. Because for a while, all the social media they were on, or all the media they had access to, I had access to. Like YouTube and that sort of thing. But now they're on TikTok, and I'm not on TikTok. I don't know what they're talking about.
If it makes you feel any better, I am on TikTok, and I have no idea what Skibbity is. So mine's like home renovation.
Or the constant dancing.
Oh my God, the
constant dancing in the bathrooms.
It's funny because like I'm actually just gonna check this, and I think we only have like 15 minutes left. So
oh God, I don't feel like we've even talked about anything.
Oh well, we can keep talking. I just don't want to take up all your night. Obviously, I feel like you're the first person that like I actually know that I've interviewed. Yeah. So
really.
Yeah, like okay, maybe that's not true, but like spent the most time with.
Yes, okay.
You know, because like, I would say that that's true.
We've had lunch.
That's the state.
Remember that someone thought I was your mother?
Yeah, and you were very offended. But to be fair, you could be my mother, like a very young mother. You know, 15, very young.
Okay.
But I just feel like. Because normally, like, when I talk to my guests, we talk a lot about, like, their life and, like, their job and all this sort of stuff, obviously, because that's what the podcast is about. You lived it with me
for a while, though.
I did live it with you.
Yes.
And I have never felt more overwhelmed when someone is describing a job, because teaching is so much.
It's so much, and it gets a bad rap, and I think because of our holidays and also, you know, a certain generation, our experience was very different. You went in, you opened the textbook, you read that textbook, you answered your questions, the teacher yelled your name, you were horrified, you know, you were sent to the principal's office. None of that happens anymore. None of that happens.
It's a completely different thing.
It's a completely different situation now. So yeah, like you know, you're trying to teach, you're trying to move skills forward, but you're also trying to, like you said, turn them into human beings. They're not robots. No. If robots just came in and you could program them and send them home, it'd be the easiest job in the world. Well, maybe not programming robots is easy, but it would be a lot easier than dealing with the soccer conflict at recess or all these little things that people don't understand unless you are a teacher. And they're never portrayed on TV shows. No, I hate watching shows about teachers because all the kids sit there like this, perfectly orderly in desks and ask questions and raise their hand, and no one's fighting about, like I said, the soccer game or giving their teacher a hard time about the mark on the test or challenging something,
sneaking their phone in.
Yeah, sneaking their phone in.
It's just crazy because you just have to, like, it's one of those professions where you, like, at first glance, some people might say, oh, it's, you know, if you're a teacher,
Or you're
you
just
can't
a babysitter.
Yeah, you
I
can't.
hate that
Yeah,
term.
and it's like, no,
Nothing wrong with babysitters.
no, nothing wrong with babysitters, but like you spend a huge chunk of life at school.
Yes.
And so your teacher is going to be the person that molds you essentially.
The scariest thing for me was realizing that I could tell them to do something 1,000 times, but if I didn't do it myself, they were never going to do it. Yeah. And that was horrifying. So you can teach kindness, but unless they see you as a kind person, it means nothing.
No, it doesn't mean anything.
And the same with parents.
Yeah.
You can tell your kid, be kind, be kind. But if you go, like we said, to Starbucks or you're in line at the grocery store and all you're doing under your breath is criticizing the person at the checkout counter, you're not being kind. And your kid is hearing that and seeing the way you're acting. And that's teaching them more than you saying, well, just be kind, just be a nice person. Well, what does that even mean?
Yeah, honestly.
What does that even mean?
Do you think nowadays, like, people are going into this profession and realizing everything that it takes and just kind of taking a step back?
I think there's a lot of anxiety. A lot of teachers coming in and being overwhelmed. I see a lot of young teachers overwhelmed and not really seeing all the different sides, the parental side. I mean, now we have to publish everything on some platform. It's not just teaching the lesson. You need to put a rubric up for the parents to see at night, and you need to have like a day of what you did posted online, and the assignments posted online, and parents are going through that stuff. So again, it's wonderful to see what your child is doing and engage in that. But on the other side, it's nerve-wracking as a teacher. Your doctor doesn't send you a note of what you did that day. They don't post their diagnosis on some Google Classroom or something.
This is what she has.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah.
It's different. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like trying to like, do you think I should go back into teaching?
Absolutely, I think you should. You're a fantastic teacher. You really, you will be a fantastic teacher. But when I said to you, I think there's something more you need to do or want to do, I meant pursuing something like this creatively, because you're such a creative person. Just inherently a creative person. So I felt like you kind of needed to explore those passions before you went into teaching. And also, I have found in my career the best teachers had a different career before teaching.
Interesting.
So you can be grateful for those moments when you get 2 weeks off at Christmas. You can be grateful for the summer. You're grateful that there are certain hours. You're grateful that you have a wonderful union behind you and a terrific pension and all the things that we have that other people don't get in their jobs. Someone else can come in and do your job for that day.
Yeah.
Not a lot of other professions have that.
Yeah.
But, it's still really a very, very difficult job. Still a very difficult job.
And now you're an ESL teacher.
Yes, I am.
So how is that differed from being in a classroom?
Night and day. I cannot believe how long I made it as a homeroom teacher because it's so much work.
Yeah.
And it's so much to take home.
Yeah.
Like I would come home and I would make dinner and then drive my daughter around, whatever activities. And then I would be on the laptop planning the next day, getting everything ready.
Yeah.
Planned out what we're going to do, what projects, and trying to be creative and engaging and keep up with what's going on and answering parent emails. And
did you ever get to a point where you're just like, I can't do this anymore? Or did you always find a way to keep pushing?
No, there were definitely difficult years.
Yeah.
Definitely difficult years where I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to make it through, but you just keep going.
Yeah.
You just keep going. And you have to ask for some support at the school. So a couple years ago, I started thinking, English as a second language teacher would be a really interesting job. I love to travel. I know a lot about different cultures. During COVID, I got super bored and thought, I'm going to learn another language. Yeah. And we have a huge majority of Mandarin speaking students at our school. So I found a Mandarin teacher online and I now have a working knowledge of the language. So moving into the ESL role has been great because I have this whole, this little group of kids, it's 100 kids that I'm I am to look after on my roster, but I get to drop into classrooms or I get to pull them and just work with them in a different capacity. So it's not the day in, day out
grind.
Yeah. It's a much more closer relationship with the kids, which is really, really nice. But they're coming from nothing, not a word of English, not even understanding of the culture. And you're trying to teach even the parents. We had parent meetings, and one parent put up their hand and said, "What is a play date? My daughter's been invited to one. What is it? Do I go too?" And I'm trying to explain, no, you don't go.
Don't walk in their home.
Drop them off, meet the parents, go to Starbucks, do something with your time, then go back and pick them up. And just really fascinating questions from parents surrounding cultures. And certain cultures love to, on the first day or second day, give the class, everyone gets a gift. Yeah.
Very nice.
Amazing. And they come with these beautiful gifts, not understanding peanut allergies or those sorts of things that
we deal with here.
Here. And so it's a lovely gesture. It's a beautiful, lovely gesture. And it's just terrible when sometimes you're like, you can't hand that out.
No,
I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry.
It's really fascinating. And to learn more about the cultures, why these families are coming to Canada, what they're looking for. I'm sure it's what my parents were looking for. I don't think that's changed that much. But it's been a tremendous shift. And just, getting to know different kids from different grade levels, because I was always sort of intermediate. Now I get to see the younger kids and what they're like and support them. And linking kids together is really fun. Like finding like 3 Turkish kids that speak Turkish and having them meet and play a game together.
Really nice.
And they're speaking their native language, and you can just see a whole different side of their personality than when they're in a classroom in English. They can be very quiet at first, not really knowing what to say or what to do. And so you're just really trying to pull them out of their shell, start with the conversational side of things, get them speaking in English, and then the reading and the writing, that's always going to be much more of a growth. That's a longer stage of learning.
Well, it sounds like you're really focusing more on the human side of things nowadays rather than like the curriculum. It's like we're going to develop conversational English, we're going to develop relationships, we're going to focus on like you becoming a part of this new society.
I mean, teaching in general has gone towards teaching kids mental health strategies, those sorts of things, acceptance, but there's a big pushback on that.
Interesting.
There's a pushback on my kids' mental health is my business, and you're just there to teach math and science. Or when you get into some LGBTQ issues, there's some resistance there. And that's quite difficult. That's quite difficult to manage all of that.
How do you do that?
You
don't know. Hope for the best.
Just tell everyone I accept everyone. And show that. That you are accepting of everyone. And just especially intermediate, because they're really looking for positive role models. Really looking for positive role models. So if someone within the class is expressing something, you really try not to react. If they're asking a question about sexuality, or what, what does it mean to be trans or something like that, you just answer the question as honestly as you can without political bias. And then kids are going to have maybe some background from home about what that is and their reactions, and you just sort of say, why are you reacting like that? It's totally normal, totally cool. It's okay. You're going to work in an environment where you're going to be surrounded by all types of people. Your generation is the generation that wants to break these barriers down. So it's hard. It's really difficult, but you need to address that within a classroom.
And when there is pushback from parents, do you find that like administration is supportive of you being
any experience I've had? Yes.
Yes.
Any experience I've had, absolutely. I mean, I've been at this school forever. I live in the community. Yeah. My daughter went to the school I currently teach at. People see me in the neighborhood. They say hello. There's a level of trust that is there. So if there's a problem, we can usually work it out. Yeah. And sometimes I'm like, I shouldn't have said that. That was a dumb thing to say. Yeah. I totally wasn't thinking from that angle. Yeah. I messed up. Yeah. I'll try to make it right in whatever way. But it's really hard. It's really hard on teachers right now, because you want to bring in even books that you want to bring into the classroom that you think will really reach these kids. Sometimes parents aren't comfortable with that.
And does that stop it from happening?
Sometimes. Sometimes you just gotta let it go. Yeah. You're not gonna read The Boy in the Pink Dress that year. No. Just unfortunately. Yeah. But you might have it on your shelf. Yeah. And a kid might pick it up and choose to read it, and that's fine. Yeah.
I know, it's crazy to think, because listeners, I'm sure you are reflecting on your own schooling as you're listening to this, but there's so many things that like teachers can either do positively or negatively, and you can remember them. So
you remember every time you were yelled at. I remember every time I was yelled at.
I was about to call you Miss Wiedemann. I remember there are a few moments in my life, but I remember there's more than a few moments in my life. But anyways, my teacher in high school said to us, we were talking about sexuality, and she said, when you turn 13, you'll just wake up and you'll know. And so I have obsessive compulsive disorder. I kid you not, till this day, I think about that, and I'm like, so as a young child, I was like, all right, well, 13, I guess I'm going to wake up and I'm going to see.
Not going to worry about it till 13.
No, that was not me. That was not me. I was like, you know what? Yeah, I like this guy, but like, what if? And it's like, all these little things that are said can be taken in a different way.
Absolutely.
And it's like, there's so many moments like that. Like this other teacher who I actually met up with, she's probably like in her 70s now, maybe 80s. And every morning I'd walk up and I would wear a hat with little bear ears on it. And she'd go like this to my hat and say, "Good morning, Hannah Bear." And everyone thought I was the teacher's pet. And I was.
Of course.
And one day I went up to her and I said, you can't do that anymore. And I bet she remembers that.
I'm sure she does.
Because it was like grade 2, right? So I'm a little child, and I was like, you can't do that anymore because everyone's making fun of me. And I said that to her. Would that not break your heart?
It would have broken my heart. Yeah. It would have broken my heart a little bit. Yeah. It would have.
And then there was this other teacher who was so bizarre. And he would tell me, like, I think you're going to be in the news, or like not in the news, but like you're going to be like a broadcaster or on TV.
You are.
And I'm like, there's just like so many, it's just so funny to like think back on your school years and like remember all the weird things that people would say. Yeah. And just like the weird moments. And it's like, oh my God, I remember this one teacher who literally did nothing. And at the end of the year, I opened my book and said, I'm done with this. You were terrible. And I like put all of my instructions into the recycling bin.
Hey.
I was crazy.
No, you weren't.
I was crazy. And then my other teacher, oh my gosh, I used to spend every afternoon in this calculus class. Every afternoon. Because I had to take calculus. Because going back to that whole, you have a path.
Yes.
I had to take calculus because I had to get into Queen's.
Okay.
And in order to get into Queen's, you had to take calculus. But of course, the only reason I didn't get into Queen's was because I took calculus.
Oh, no.
So, but you know what? For all those listening, it ended up working out anyway, and it was fine. But it's just crazy how much time you spend in a school listening to someone speak to you.
It goes to show the impact teachers have, because you remember those bad moments and those bad teachers. Everyone does. Yeah. And that's a brush our profession gets painted with. Right? Everyone jumps back to that horrible teacher they had. Yeah. And just remembers those feelings, and they don't want those kids to have those feelings. So they try to protect their child from that. And it can cause so many different issues between parent and teacher and administration and the kids' experience. Sometimes the kids are fine. Yeah. and the parent has some issue they never resolved.
Exactly. Well, to have a more positive note to finish
Yeah,
up
sorry.
shortly.
Yeah, we can't end on a negative note after you said the world has no fun or forgiveness.
Everything sucks. What have, like, obviously kids have come back and, like, have had relationships with you and, like, been like, oh, hey, because you live in the community still. Yeah. Have people ever told you, like, the impact that you've made on them?
Yes. Yeah. It's just so wonderful. I remember seeing a kid at a deli counter. Yeah. And he's like, you were amazing. You taught me that I could do stuff. You gave me confidence. I never had that before you. Aww. And other kids are like, I just remember your laugh. And they actually found me in the store. They're like, I heard this laugh from 3 aisles over, and I knew it had to be you. Oh my God. I knew it had to be you. Craziest moment. Yeah. So we belong to a ski club, and I'm sitting with some girlfriends at the club, and we're just, end of the day, après ski. And this man, this boy, young, probably 23 or something, is at the bar and keeps looking at me. Yeah. And so my friends start teasing me. They're like, but that kid's checking you out, Wiedemann. Yeah. And I'm like, no, is there toilet paper stuck to me? Like what's happening? What's happening? Have I zipped my hoodie? Like, something is wrong. Yeah, this is not an attraction. And he keeps looking, and I'm starting to, like, sweat, get nervous, like my face is going red. And then he starts coming over, and then my friends are like, oh. And he gets to the table, and he was just he had grown into a very attractive man. Yeah. And he looks at me and he goes, Mrs. Wiedemann? And I'm like, oh my God. And I knew his name right away. Away. So we got a picture together. Yeah. And he still hung out with so many kids from that year, from that grade 8 year. Yeah. And he sent it out to his little group chat. Yeah. And we sat and we talked forever that night. Yeah. And one of the great moments was I could see his phone, people responding, and people saying, like, oh my God, Mrs. Wiedemann, legend. Where did you find her? She still looks the same. Oh. It was such a, it's amazing. Come on. Yeah. It's amazing. And when I'm walking around the neighborhood, cars waving, people waving, and I feel like I'm integrated in the community. Like I made a difference in this community. Yeah. And you don't really get that anymore. No. And I think we're all kind of searching for that. Like we're searching for a purpose in life. So when I was looking at other roles within teaching, my principal was like, well, would you take that role at another school? And I'm like, no. Because this is my neighborhood. Yeah, like, this is where I need to be. This is where I need to be. I need to see it through. Right across the street is a kid I worked with for many years. Yeah. And I still see them every morning and wave across the driveway. And I love it. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. That connection. And I think I've been listening recently to a lot of podcasts that talk about, like, community and the importance of community. So important. And I think especially, like, I nanny at the moment. Yeah. So it's me and a 1-year-old who doesn't speak. So yet. He's slowly getting there. But I'm realizing how isolating it can be. Absolutely. And I do miss being in the classroom because you just, like, even if a kid's having a shitty day, you know that you're going to be met with some sort of, like, a funny story or, a funny moment, or there's a chaos in teaching something that is wonderful. There is. It's like, you know what? This room's a disaster. It's all everyone's upset, but you know what? Like, we're in it together. And it's gonna be okay. And the bell's gonna ring, and we're all gonna go home. And we'll see you tomorrow, and it's fine. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll hope it's fine. Yeah. I do miss it, and, like, I'm definitely gonna go back, but I know you will. It's just, I want to, like, when you're ready, pursue other things as well. I think that's the healthiest thing. And like I said, the best teachers come from other experiences. Yeah. Yeah. Just as you did. Oh, God. The best teachers. Oh, God. And where do you see the next few years? Well, I'm approaching retirement. How many more years? Probably 5 or 6. Okay. Not quite yet, though. Well, it's pretty good. You're in the last little bit. One more day. I just pray that my health that I have good health, that everything goes well for my family, and I'm able to remain active. And literally, like, I want to be on a ski hill all winter. That's what I want to do.
And a golf course.
And a golf course and gardening. And I have all these little hobbies that I just want to occupy my time with. And I think I could be quite happy doing that.
Yeah.
I might supply teach or volunteer or something like that, but I have other things I want to do. Just live my life, live a different life.
And do you think you'll be satisfied if you end your career and retire in the ESL position, or do you think you'll want to go back to the homeroom?
I've only been an ESL teacher since September,
Okay.
so it's
we
probably
don't really know yet.
It's too early to say if I'm even any good at it, or if I'm gonna like it
sure you're good at it.
long term. I don't know. I always had my eye on a community pathways job as well, which is working with disabled children within a school setting. So that would be of interest to me as well. Or I might go back to a regular classroom. I don't know. You don't know what the future holds. Especially in teaching, you can be switched halfway through the year. You can be put into a new classroom. So I'll just not ride out. That sounds like I'm not trying. I'll just do the best I can for the next 5 or 6 years, and hopefully retire, end with a bang, and retire and move on to different pursuits.
The year Miss Wiedemann retires. It's going to be, you got to have a party.
Epic. It's going to be a big thing. I have to go out in style.
Yeah, you do. Oh my God.
Out in style.
Are you going to be Princess Diana on your last day?
Well, I'm going to be a princess for sure. Were you there for my 50th when I dressed in the royal
I don't think so.
costume? Okay. I will definitely be wearing royal attire.
Yeah, of course.
I will definitely
think the
have
whole
a crown.
class should try to make it so the whole class is in the royal attire. Bribe them somehow.
The Jubilee. It'll be my own personal Jubilee.
Yeah. I think that's what, you know what? You've got 6 years to plan it. Start now. Oh my goodness.
Yes, and I will abdicate. Abdicate the throne.
There you are. I've enjoyed my time here. A speech.
It's probably written in my head.
Oh, yeah.
And I just, go out in style. Waving as I...
Get the moped.
Drive the moped home one last time. Streamers.
Parade. My gosh. Yeah, you have to do that. There's no doubt in my mind that
we
is what will
didn't talk
happen.
about my royal obsession. It's probably very confusing.
Final question for you tonight is, what advice would you have for your younger self?
Oh, God. Everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be okay. Like when you think about going through high school and the dramas of high school, the dramas of middle school, the dramas of university, and all the heartbreaks or things that you went through, I would just go back and say, just keep doing what you're doing. I don't know what you're doing that is right, but it's right. And just keep going, and everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to work out.
Everything is going to work out.
Hopefully,
yeah. We just got to do our best and whatever happened will happen.
Keep calm and carry on.
Well, thank you so much for
thank you.
coming on the podcast today.
Thank you for listening to me, because no one listens to me anymore.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, they do.
They listen to you.
They do.
Anyway, we will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good job. How'd you feel?
Great.
Good.
It was fun.
Yay.
It's just us talking in the classroom.
I know, right? It's just
there's 15 minutes we can talk before